Hello, my name is Rara, and tonight I'm gonna share my story about how I came out to my family. I'm very honored to be a speaker of this edition of PechaKucha, especially since this is the first time I'm talking openly and publicly about bisexuality. But first, a little bit about me. I'm a translator and interpreter. I work currently for an international organization in the governance reform sector. I was raised not just by my parents, but also by my extended family, grandparents, uncles, aunts. I come from a small town off the coast of South Sulawesi, and the stereotype of Makassar people being stubborn and hard-headed like anak. And I guess it backfired when, at the age of 18, I told them I was a lesbian. Can you imagine the shock? And so the first reaction that my family had, this was what my dad told me, and I was forced not just by my father, but also by the entire family who embraced me to either straighten up or I would lose my status as their daughter and as their member of the family. And at the time, I was locked inside the house. I was not allowed to go anywhere until I get rehabilitated. But then, something magical happened. One day, my grandmother, she was 75 years old, she came into my room and she gave me 2 million rupiah in cash and told me, get out of here, you don't belong. It was probably the only money, all the money she had. And she gave it to me, and so that time, in 2011, I ran and I came here to Jakarta with just a backpack and 2 million rupiah in cash. I struggled very hard to survive. It was a depressing, it was a frightening time of my life, and I had to even sometimes ration money for food, and it was really depressing. But then, about a year later, my life turned around. My life turned around. I found a decent job. I found someone who mentored me and trained me, and I also even started getting back to school. And it was around that time my life was improving, but then I still decided I still miss my family. I still miss my parents and my grandmother especially. And so I decided to reach out to her. And when she met me, I don't know whether it was because she saw how rough my life had been or because she's this incredible person. All of a sudden, a year later, my sexuality was no longer a problem to her. I mean, can you imagine someone who is God-fearing, religious, conservative, 75-year-old lady saying this? I mean, I was grateful for this change of heart. I mean, even until now, she kept telling me, you should marry a rich woman. Some things never change, But then, however, things with my father did not, it wasn't that. As far as he was concerned, I was dead to him, and on some level, he was dead to me. I mean, I had a lot of anger, I had a lot of resentment, and he disowned me when I did nothing wrong, and it was really, really difficult for the longest time. But my brother, older brother, however, was more of a sensible man. He was, we both had always been close growing up, but even then it took me 3 years to accept my sexuality, and but right now things are going pretty good with him. He even managed to facilitate the meeting. Sorry, I had no documentation of that dinner. He facilitated a meeting between me and my father. Even until now, my relationship with my dad is still awkward, it's still strained, but at least we communicated and we have gotten in touch. I think in general, things with my family are getting along pretty well. My grandmother loves my girlfriend. They would come visit and they would stay at my girlfriend's apartment and things like that. But I think it's a work in progress. You know how it is with families. But I guess if you could take away anything from my story, I think it is that right now we live in a society that would rather throw away their children for being gay rather than accept them. And this is the strongest reason why I am actually encouraging young LGBT people to not come out to their families unless they're aware of the consequences. I think I was a victim of Glee and like of pop culture shit, and I fell a victim to that because I came out to my family at a time when I was already emotional. real possibility. There's a real possibility that no matter how much your mom and dad loves you, they will never be able to accept you. And therefore, I would like to have a little bit of a more subtle approach than what those LGBT rights activists are telling you. I think I would advocate for you to instead of trying to find acceptance from your family, try to find acceptance from yourself. I think my family were right, and I'm very grateful for them for having teaching me that you have to stay true to yourself, because that's the lesson that I even implement up until today, even though it has to be against them. And over time, you will find the type of support system that will love you and will care about you, no matter your sexuality. And this is what I discovered throughout the years. My friends are my support system, and on top